Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Congress has approved a package of final changes to the landmark health care overhaul. The House of Representatives put the finishing touches on the bill last night after the Senate approved the package on a 56-43 vote. At a rally in Iowa, President Obama dared Republicans to try to repeal the new law. Obama's speech in Iowa was interrupted when a member of the audience yelled out, "What about the public option?"
That's the basic aspects of reform. That's not in it because we couldn't get it through Congress. That's why. So there's no need to shout, young man. No need to shout. 32 million people are going to have health insurance because of this legislation. That's what this work's about.
In the Senate, independent Bernie Sanders of Vermont joined Democrats in voting for the bill. After reiterating his support of a single-payer Medicare for all system, Sanders praised the health care reform legislation, saying it would revolutionize primary health care in America.
This legislation provides enough funding so that we are going to create, over the next 5 years, 8,000 new health center sites, more than doubling the number that now exists. We are going to increase access for primary health care, dental care, mental health counseling, and low-cost prescription drugs to an additional 20 million Americans in every state, in every region of this country. That is a huge step forward in providing basic health care to millions of Americans who today cannot access that care. The health care reform was passed after one of the most intense lobbying campaigns ever seen on Capitol Hill. According to the Center for Responsive Politics, over 1,700 corporations and organizations reported lobbying on the legislation last year. Lawmakers are continuing to receive threats in the wake of the health care vote. New York Democratic Congressman Anthony Weiner was forced to close an office in Queens Thursday after a staff received a threatening letter with a suspicious white powder. The letter directly referred to Weiner's support for health care reform. At least 10 House Democrats have reported death threats or incidents of harassment since last week. On Sunday, Republican Congressmember Steve King of Iowa addressed a group of Tea Partiers and urged opponents of health care reform to beat the other side to a pulp.
If I could start a country with a bunch of people, they'd be the folks that have been here standing with us the last 2 days. Let's hope we don't have to do that. Let's beat that other side to a pulp. Let's take them out. Let's chase them down. There's going to be a reckoning.
On Thursday, Eric Cantor, the second-ranking Republican in the House, accused Democratic Party leaders of fanning the flames.
It is reckless to use these incidents as media vehicles for political gain. That is why I have deep concerns that some, DCCC Chairman Chris Van Hollen and DNC Chairman Tim Kaine in particular, are dangerously fanning the flames by suggesting that these incidents be used as a political weapon.
In other fallout from the health care vote, David Frum, a former speechwriter for George Bush, has been fired from the conservative American Enterprise Institute. His dismissal came just days after he said the passage of the health care bill amounted to a Waterloo moment and that it was the, quote, most crushing legislative defeat since the 1960s. Frum's best known for penning President Bush's axis of evil remarks in the aftermath of September 11, 2001. But in recent months, he's been publicly attacked by the Wall Street Journal editorial page, Rush Limbaugh, and Sarah Palin. As part of the health care package, lawmakers Thursday approved an overhaul of the college student loan program, ending federal subsidies to private lenders. The measure ends the 45-year-old federal family education loan program, which has supported private student lending with federal subsidies. The projected $61 billion in savings over 10 years would be used to provide federal grants to needy students and help fund other federal education programs, such as support for community colleges and historically black schools. For the second time in a month, a Republican lawmaker has single-handedly blocked a vote on a stopgap jobless benefits bill. With Congress in recess for 2 weeks, this could mean that on April 5th, a host of popular provisions could expire, including unemployment insurance and COBRA benefits for the jobless. Oklahoma Senator Tom Coburn blocked the measure last night. Republican Senator Jim Bunning of Kentucky blocked passage of a similar extension in February. In other economic news, the Obama administration is expected to announce today broad new initiatives to help troubled homeowners, potentially refinancing several million of them into fresh government-backed mortgages with lower payments. Part of the plan will help the unemployed and those underwater with mortgages bigger than their home's value. Many details of the administration's plan remain unclear. The New York Times is reporting that when the current pope was a cardinal, he was kept more closely apprised of a sexual abuse case in Germany than previous church statements have suggested. In 1980, Cardinal Joseph Ratzinger was copied on a memo that informed him that a priest would be returned to pastoral work within days of beginning psychiatric treatment to overcome pedophilia. The priest was later convicted of molesting boys in another parish. Meanwhile, in another sexual abuse case, the Vatican has strongly defended its decision not to defrock the Wisconsin-based priest, Father Lawrence Murphy, who molested as many as 200 deaf boys at a school for the deaf. Internal documents show Vatican officials, including the future pope, knew of the allegations, but were most concerned with protecting the church's image. On Thursday, Gigi Butzinski said her father was one of the deaf boys who was molested by Father Murphy.
He hopes they do something. I believe somebody should be punished for this. His innocence was stolen from him. His childhood he was very depressed. He was not happy. He couldn't enjoy his childhood. Everything was stolen from him. And now he's 61 years old and he's still fighting for this.
In Indonesia, human rights groups held a news conference today in Jakarta, the Indonesian capital, calling on the Indonesian army to stop denying the exposé by journalist Alan Nairn that U.S.-backed Indonesian armed forces assassinated a series of civilian activists in the province of Aceh last year. The human rights groups called on the police to arrest those responsible for the assassinations and distributed Alan Nairn's piece to the press. The two human rights groups, Kontras and Imparcial, were founded by Munir, the country's leading human rights advocate who was assassinated by Indonesian intelligence in 2004. While much attention has been paid to the recent tension between the Obama White House and the Israeli government over settlements, the Pentagon and the Israeli military have just concluded another large arms deal. The Israeli newspaper Haaretz reports the U.S. will give Israel 3 new Hercules J transport aircraft produced by Lockheed Martin at a cost of $250 million. Israel's also negotiating a possible $3 billion deal to purchase Lockheed F-35 warplanes. Human Rights Watch has criticized the Venezuelan government for arresting 2 prominent anti-government critics. On Thursday, Guillermo Zuluaga, the president of the TV station Globovision, was arrested and briefly detained. Zuluaga and his station have been vocal critics of Venezuelan President Hugo Chavez and openly supported the 2002 coup. In climate news, the World Meteorological Organization has confirmed earlier reports that the last decade was the warmest on record. The organization also said 2009 was the 5th hottest year on record. Meanwhile, in another sign of global warming, the ice has cleared on Lake Winnipesaukee in New Hampshire. It's the earliest date for the lake to be ice-free since residents started keeping records over 120 years ago. So far this month, the temperature in Concord, New Hampshire is over 7 degrees warmer than normal. New York regulators have rejected a plan by the energy giant Entergy to spin off its nuclear power plants into a new company. Entergy runs 5 nuclear power plants, including Vermont Yankee, which is scheduled to be shut down. Critics said Entergy wanted to form the spin-off company to insulate Entergy from the high costs of cleaning up Vermont Yankee and other plants. John Stewart serves on the New York Public Service Commission.
At this point, we've completed our review of the petitioner's proposal. We've considered the comments. It's our position that Nexus is not a financially viable entity in the long run under their proposal, and as such, the proposed transaction is not in the public interest. It's our recommendation, therefore, that the Commission deny the proposal by petitioners.
At the University of California, Berkeley, a campaign to divest from companies doing business with Israel has been dealt a setback. The president of the student government has vetoed the bill urging the school to divest from General Electric and United Technologies because of what they described as, quote, their military support of the occupation of the Palestinian territories. The veto was issued days after the student government voted 16-4 to approve a resolution calling on the school to divest from the companies. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman with Juan Gonzalez.